The speaker will talk about what they've done or they were already doing and share with us and with all of you here some of the results they are getting and then the changes they made. So to do that, we have invited Patricio Vidal. Patricio has a bachelor degree in animal science. He's been in the business in pigs for 27 years in different aspects, mostly related to management of sows, interacting with producers and customers when he was at different jobs, such as PIC, where he started his career in Chile. And then he's been in the US for 12 years and worked with the Smithfield, the Mashups, and more recently with the Clemens Food Group. And he is the Vice President of Production Operations for Country View Family Farms. So Patricio with that, sorry. Thank you for being here with us.
Francisco, do you want to join us?
No, sorry. I'm just brings back some memories, good times when I was at PIC and visiting Chile, so thank you.
Thank you, Monse. Can you hear me okay in the back? Perfect. Thank you, Monse, for the invitation. Thank you, University of Minnesota. It's a pleasure to be here presenting in front of this select group of professionals. Even better to see the amount of faces of friends made in more than 25 years working in this industry. I will go quick through my presentation to allow time for questions, and as we are getting close to lunch, by the way, Monse, listening to you earlier today, I will take your advice on regards to dessert. I will try it, only if it is bacon in it. First, kind of a disclaimer. This presentation is not about Clemens Food Group opinion on Prop 12, nor Country View Family Farms. This is not about if we like it or not. As pork producers, we are in the same side of all of the producers. This is about a challenge we were presented with. How did we evaluate this challenge and what we did about it? So I will try to be as objective as possible, leaving all the passion out of it. And I will share with you so far what we have done, what we have learned, what's working, what's not. But it is kind of obvious to say that we are in the very early stages of Prop 12 implementation. So a lot of early data, not sound enough to make any kind of a conclusion yet. A couple of slides about Clemens Food Group. This will help us understand why we decided to try Prop 12. Founded about 126 years ago, we call ourselves vertically coordinated. We have operations in different states, 2 slaughter plants, one in Hatfield, PA, the other one in Coldwater, Michigan. We have a strong presence in the East Coast, and our most known brand is Hatfield. About 22 years ago, Clemens created Country View Family Farms as a strategic business unit. We started with a small amount of sows. Today, we operate about 105,000 sows, plus we raise pigs for another 25,000 sows, delivering about 2.6 million hogs to Clemens slaughter plants, processing plants, which represents about 40% of the hog supply to the Clemens Food Group. 400 team members working at Country View Family Farms. For the whole Clemens Food Group, now we have 4,600 team members, so 400 of them working for Country View. And again, as I will start building the story behind our decision of moving into trying Prop 12. Even before Prop 12, we already have 100% of our sows on group sow housing. And even more, 50% of those are on a system called pre-implantation, where our sows stay in stalls only from weaning to breeding, and after that, they roll into gestation pens. So, and the other half on what we know as the Ohio standard, where they stay in stalls for about 35 days. After pregnancy confirmation, they move into pens. So 2 slides to tell you from the Clemens Food Group perspective, why, and from the country view perspective, why. We have strong presence on the area highlighted in dark blue. We have our brands very well positioned in the East Coast, and we do some businesses in the central part of the country and very little in the West Coast. So the group saw this new challenge as a potential opportunity to improve our competitive position in the East Coast, to strengthen our businesses in the state of Massachusetts, and the opportunity to explore and expand our businesses in the West Coast. And for country view, this is something I took from MPPC, but about 2/3 of the sow production in the US is still fully crated on stalls. As I mentioned before, 50% of our sows at Country View are already here. But the other 50% of the sows are here. So we already have sow farms that before Prop 12 were flowing at 24 square feet per sow. That was a voluntary decision. That was by choice. That was even before realizing that there was going to be a Prop 12. So when time came and the challenge came to try Prop 12 conditions, was not that difficult to think about, okay, so far, we have most of our system running under Prop 12 conditions. So let's focus now on trying to find a better, more effective way to run through the wean to service period of the animals without losing much more competitiveness. So this is how our journey started. We call it journey. As mentioned before, we started this conversion from stalls to pens about 10, 12 years ago. And I did my best trying to put in this table what we believe within Country View has been the cost of moving from what I will call today the baseline, meaning 100% stalls, to what we had before Prop 12. The 3 numbers here represent the 3 stages within the breeding and gestation barn, meaning for wean sows, 14 square feet, so I'm talking about a 7x2 stall, right? Then a stall for the pre-implantation and a stall for late. That's what the 3 numbers represent here, okay? So I will call that baseline. And then we have seen, as we transition into a group setting, then pre-implantation, and then large pens, meaning pens with capacity for 240 animals each. we have seen an impact about 3 to 4% reduction in farrowing rate. It was way bigger when we transitioned it. For every single parameter here, we are reducing the gap to the point that not quite there yet, but these numbers, believe me, if doing this analysis 3 years ago, the gap was even bigger than this. The same, probably our main challenge, and this is not Country View Family Farms solely challenge, this is the industry challenge. We have seen an increase of about 1% moving into gestation pen, up to 3% increase in sow mortality. So all of that, our PSY went down by about a pig. It's not easy to put this number together, as this was about 10 years ago, and this is today. So I tried to neutralize a bit the impact of genetic improvement and all the other stuff. So it is not peers to peers. I don't know if I'm making my point. So now doing 24 square feet all across. Those were the 3 main questions we tried to answer through our trials. But the point here is, for the most of the industry, the analysis needs to be what's going to impact from going from this column directly into Prop 12. We already made that process in the last 10 years, and we have seen that the cost of a weaned pig based on throughput lost is about 10%. So whatever your cost was doing stalls will go up by about 10% going to Prop 12, only because of loss of inventory, right? You have the same space and you can put fewer sows in it. Oops, excuse me. And then the cost of remodeling a graded facility into a Prop 12 compliant facility, our estimates are about 7% increase in the cost per weaned pig. So that's huge. We do realize that. Again, by choice, our company was already here. So our marginal cost is what I'm going to show you in the next few slides. This is one of the 4 sow farms we converted from before to Prop 12. This is very typical for our sow farms. This is a 5,400 sow farm unit, 3 buildings, GDU, receiving gilts as feeders. They are 10 weeks old. They go through acclimation, board exposure, ESF training here. Sorry. Then the breeding barn with 16, I'm having some issues with the pointer. Okay, 16 U-shaped big pens. Each pen has capacity for 240 animals. And the gestation barn had about 600 to 700 stalls for open gilts coming from the GDU and for weaned sows coming from farrowing. Okay? So you're familiar with this. This was the only area within our farms that was with stalls, 2 or 3 rows of stalls to take care of the weaned sow. So again, the challenge was, okay, how do we deal with a weaned sow in a pen setting? So with a group of people within Country View, some of them here, we started this process of, okay, how do we solve it? Something we realized that we put too much technology into our system and we lost the fine-tuning on regards to animal behavior. So started building different type of pens. We started with 5x5s, 6x6s, 1 animal per pen, 2 animals. Then we put 3 square rectangle. We put a CC, closed caption TV, 24/7. We video recorded for about a month. We had a person analyzing animal interaction, how do sows interact with each other when they are in heat. Then we moved to, we got experts involved. So we got support from Temple Grandin, from Dr. Tom Parsons, UPenn. So trying to better understand this dynamic between sows. If you are as old as me, probably 27 years ago, we did it that way, and then we moved to crates and we lost it. Then we moved to another farm, and we tried in a commercial setting, sending wind sows directly into our ESF pens, and then realized how labor intensive it was. So this process ended way different than our initial idea, with a lot of feedback from farm managers, from technicians, and because of the design of our farms, we did not have room on regards to replace those stalls. We didn't have enough room to go with the solution that most of the other companies trying Prop 12 did, the free access. We didn't have room to put free access stalls in it, so this is what we ended with. With big pens, instead of the stalls, we removed all the stalls. We put big pens with capacity for actually 71 animals. And they are in a big pen with different gatings, so you can eventually break this pen apart and you can segregate animals. And just a small subset of stalls, without water, without feed, only to put animals in heat. They get PCA'd, back to the pen. The day after, if they are in heat, back to the stall, second service, back to the pen, and whenever the sow is done, within the next 2 or 3 days, they go to the gestation pen. A farm with that design, we run gestation dynamic, meaning every single pen receives animals every single week. So mixing continues over there, now with bred sows. And then, of course, every week from every single pen, we load sows into farrowing. What did we learn? Is labor intensive. We realized that we need, for a 5,000 sow farm, 2 additional head count, because the whole process of heat checking and AI requires more people. Here, what we do is if you are creative, those are boars. So we start with a pen with wind sows. The day 0, day 1, day 2, we bring the boars inside the pen, so they have direct nose-to-nose contact with our sows. On day 3, something we learned quick, you can't put boars inside. When you have day 3, day 4, you have 70 sows in heat, and I have a picture about it. Those poor boars were in one corner of the pen trying to run away from 70 sows in heat. So day 3, day 4, and after, we just use fence line. They are in our contactomax, and team members, that's why this is labor intensive. Team members need to push animals, sows, closer to the fence. That way we will increase interaction with the boars. So this is how the breeding area looks after. Here we have the stalls. Now we have 8 pens. The first 5 for wind sows. The last 3 for open gilts. This is a close-up of the same pen. We kept the feed lines, so we put like 18 drops, feed drops on each pen. Now they are in true full feed. They eat as they want. So not increasing our feed usage, we reduce it a lot, the feed waste, as we do not have sows being fed more than needed, or sows running out of feed and then, oops. So we saw that. We reduced a lot the fighting. To our surprise, weaned sows didn't fight as much as we were expecting. Maybe because they were tired coming from farrowing, or maybe because feed availability was enough, or maybe because the pen was big enough to allow the non-dominant sows to run away from fighting. And then most of it is about pictures. That our conversion, an additional challenge was to do that with animals at the sites. Good news, we didn't have any hiccup or biosecurity issue. And then a few pictures about those pens after the remodeling. Still some work to do on regards to reducing feed waste, but this is where we have the feed drops, 18 drops per pen, enough to have sows. These sows were weaned a day before and they didn't fight. Compliance is a big issue. Every pen now at the farm has a sign like this with the max capacity and the current inventory. And probably you cannot see it that clear here, but those two are boars, and they are cornered, so they are trying to go away. And I will talk about this in the conclusions. This was critical for us, to have the labor quality and the willingness to do it. Something we used to do with 2 people, now we do it with 4. And requires much more interaction between the animals and the person. This is something we already had from before. This is our gestation pens, electronic sow feeding, group housing. So challenges coming with Prop 12. We do have boards inside the gestation pens. We have antennas, so this is a tool that helps us to identify sows in heat, so we can sort them out the day after. But this is another example. If we have a sow in need of a treatment, let's say a lame sow, now we do not have stalls, right? So what we did, we created small pens inside the gestation pens with a self-feeder. So, and by random, the square footage of this pen is 49 square feet. So whenever we have a lame sow, we move 2 sows into that pen and we close it. If not, we are going to lose 1 space. This system is much less forgiving to make things wrong because we do not have the ability to overpopulate pens, to increase our breed target because our conception rate went down. Or if we go through mass vaccinations and we have withdrawal period, we cannot cool sows for 3 weeks. So requires much more attention to details to make it work right. I want to emphasize early data. This will never pass the test of the science because this is early data, observations, right? And it is a bit contaminated for the first few months where we were learning and our numbers did go down. And then I will show you the last 3 months where you will see the before and the after kind of a balance. Something we are not proud of is our sow mortality. Our system runs about 16% sow mortality. Those farms we converted were running higher as we were going through other issues, health issues, genetic transitions. We were depopping some of the farms, new herds. So please, do not take at all this number as our expectation, nor as our target. Again, the system runs about 16, 17%, which is high, but not to this point. The point here is we did not lose inventory. Those 4 farms, only a small impact because of the lack of stalls. Sow mortality didn't change much, and labor, as expected, went up. So productivity went down a bit, and I can tell you our cost of production went up by no more than 3%. But then I went to the last 3 months only, and these are a few KPIs I realized it interesting to share. Wind to estrus interval. 7 was not good, but immediately went down by 2 days. So, again, more bore power, bores inside the pens, continuous bore exposure from day 0. A lot of stuff you can tell me, hey, but you should have been doing that before. Yes, but now we started doing it right, and it was almost automatic. It is nice to see when you walk into one of these pens by day 4, you have 95% of the sows in heat. Then, with our gilts, was good as well, as there is a lot of mixing happening in those gilt pens. And again, as should have happened, more bore interaction, more stress. So it became way easier to achieve breed target out of those gilt pens. Conception rate, the last 3 months has gone up, probably as a consequence of the first one. And now our mortality is kind of a balance with what we had before. To do this comparison, I grabbed the last 3 months and I used the same 3 months a year ago. So still high mortality, but the additional impact of Prop 12 is what I'm trying to tell you here, was not that much. With this, I will start, will finish my presentation. Safety became way more critical. You have much more interaction between sows and boars, between boars, between sows and people. So safety is a big one. At first, because we didn't know well to handle this, we saw higher sow mortality, mainly because the mounting behavior of sows in heat. So we had to increase the amount of people taking care of heat checking to reduce that. We already talked about that, about 10% increase in labor. Requires a lot of discipline. I will be repetitive on this. It's about teaching, training team members. This is a new process. Stockmanship is critical. And again, less freedom to navigate through anything out of normal. On the positive side, increased interaction between the sows and the boars. I guess that was critical to reduce wind to service interval. The breeding process is faster. We did not see the amount of fighting we were expecting at weaning. Better condition at breeding, and forced the team to work together. Before, you had one individual doing heat checking, another one AI, and now you need to have 3-4 team members working together. And finally, you can identify animals in need of treatment much easier as they are walking around. Has been easier to achieve breed targets. And people so far is really engaged with this. It's not easier, it's more expensive, creates additional challenges. But we have learned about stuff we can do even if Prop 12 goes away. Probably we are going to continue doing stuff like this with or without Prop 12. We don't really care much about Prop 12. It's about challenges and how do we keep moving. Our vision is to be the leader in customer solutions. So at some point they will be asking for more. And we need to be ready. How do we keep adding value? Is it Prop 12? Maybe not. I don't know. But continuous change. So we are ready to try. Why not? Hopefully we will take care of the Prop 12. That's not the issue. It's how do we keep moving. And with that, I finish my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricio. Questions?
The barn that you showed there, it was a retrofit. Everyone knows when you retrofit, you're giving up on things that maybe you want because of fixed confines of walls and such. What would you change if you poured brand new concrete?
Good question. The farm I shown was the first out of 4 farms we have under that system. First, I will never put a farming in between, right? But that was part of the terrain, so we had to do that. What I will do different, that's a discussion we have had with the production guys here. I like big pens, not that big. If we can flow our animals in smaller pens, I can eventually flow my gestation static. There is no way to flow static a system with pens of 240 animals per pen. Because if we do, we are going to be highly inefficient in space. But if I can go to smaller pen, that way I can flow static groups, and I can reduce fighting, I can reduce mixing, I can reduce stressors. That will be probably the main change. Second, ESF. We are fully vested on ESF. We have 50,000 sows with 1 brand of electronic sow feeding. I don't know if I will build another farm on electronic sow feeding that way. I will probably go to a different system with lower maintenance, easier to manage, and yeah, those will be probably my main 2 changes. And of course, if I'm not limited by regulation, I will have a small set of stalls to be able to do treatments and segregate animals as needed.
One last question here up front.
Have you seen any benefits to, and I apologize if I missed this, to just having more people in the pen? Are you picking up other things or earlier detection of disease or things like that? I mean, labor shortage has been a discussion that I've heard throughout the whole pre-conference as well. And you've just doubled the number of people, which I know we're talking about 4 people, but still the idea of doubling it seems like it would make a significant difference in overall sow health potentially.
Thanks for the question. This is not related to Prop 12, but this is my point of view, and we were discussing this last night at dinner. In this industry, we have a very unique situation. Because of the labor shortage, we started bringing in professionals from other countries. But I do not know another industry where your front labor is made up of 70% of college graduates. So in our farms, 70 to 80% of our labor graduated from college, from a 4-year degree. You can argue better or lower, whatever, but we have professionals. We have a lot of veterinarians working at our farms as technicians. So that by itself can help improve the quality of the labor. Plus, you're right, 2 additional people. As you were asking the question, I was looking at the 2 guys doing it. I'm just presenting. Those 2 are doing it, and they were nodding. So yes, better identification of lame sows or the sow that is not eating or stuff like that. So increase it. The awareness. And by the way, heat detection as well. You have now 4 sets of eyes looking for sows in heat.
Good. Thank you.